There are a lot of exciting mature startups that we all know very well, from Instacart to SpaceX. But how do you secure shares in those companies pre-IPO? Today I'm going to be talking about how I buy shares in companies that are over $1 billion in valuation but are still private and have not yet IPO'd. Are you ready? Let's begin. Hi everyone, my name is Avishai and I talk about the stock market, investing, startup investing, angel investing, crypto investing, and any kind of investing in general. And today I'm going to be diving into the two platforms that I use in order to buy stock in companies that have not IPO'd yet, private companies that have reached over $1 billion valuation. And the two platforms I use are EquityZen and AngelList. And what I love about both platforms is that they can give you the opportunity to invest in companies that are also valued around $100 to $200 million. It's not only unicorn status companies. Now, the two platforms are very different from each other in many ways. And on EquityZen, it's more for people who are looking to buy a large amount of shares in a company pre-IPO. My smallest investment in EquityZen, even though it was a low figure, it was a 5-figure number. And that's as low as you can basically go on EquityZen when you're investing through the platform. Many times on EquityZen, the reason there are shares available in a company is just because one single employee, and there's not really a organized secondary round that is happening on the platform. AngelList, on the other hand, has organized secondary rounds and sometimes an opportunity to actually participate in an actual equity round, even in very late stages of a company. Another great thing about AngelList is sometimes you can put just $1,000 to work and that's it. You're part of that special purpose vehicle that's now buying shares in a company that is not public yet. Now, there are more platforms than just EquityZen and AngelList. There are all kinds of platforms with all kinds of names, and I'm not going to go into all of them. I'm just going to tell you to be careful before you choose a platform to invest on. Now, besides these platforms, are there other ways to invest in these kinds of companies pre-IPO? Well, you can always stalk employees and see if somebody wants to actually sell their options to you. That is one possibility. I can't tell you how to do this in the legal manner of it, but it is a theoretical opportunity if you know somebody who wants to actually maybe cash in on their options and can't wait until an IPO date arrives. And now if you're asking yourself who would do such a thing and why would they sell it to you? Well, a lot of employees wanted to sell their Airbnb options and shares just before the pandemic, just because Airbnb was not really going to IPO at that time. And when the company did hit that kind of pandemic snag, there were a lot of people who are very upset that they didn't IPO. And only later when Airbnb IPO'd, I know that some of their employees found some solace in that IPO because they really thought that all that life's work of trying to accumulate shares through staying in the company was going to be not as expected in terms of the return on investment in their mind. So just kind of an example of one company that a lot of people at a certain point would be happy to sell their shares or options. But I'm sure there are more examples like this, but we're not going to go into that. Let's jump into how I choose the companies that I invest in before they potentially IPO. And the way I choose these companies is especially based on what do I know about the company until now and why haven't they IPO'd yet? When we're talking about what I know until now, it's a lot about what were the valuations that got us here, what was the sales growth, looking at their LinkedIn, seeing if they're still hiring employees. If a company is plateauing, there are enough signs to show that the company has plateaued. If a company is in hypergrowth mode, there are usually enough signs to show that they're in a hypergrowth mode. When we're talking about big companies, sometimes it's easy to see if they're acquiring small companies as acqui-hires or they're acquiring big companies to increase their growth numbers. These are things that are a tell to tell you kind of what is the situation with the company. Out of 3 companies that are very likely to IPO in the next 2 to 3 years, one of the companies that I invested in has plateaued a bit and therefore their shares were in a deep discount. So I am basically betting on the company to find its way to IPO at a higher valuation. And if the discount is deep enough, you can sometimes X2 or X3 your investment just by having the company IPO at a price of the valuation that they were last valued in the last private round. Another thing you want to check is if the whole executive team is still on board, if the company is hiring hotshot names that are leaving established places to join the company. So if you see all kinds of bullish signs as a CEO that has been a long time and that there are a lot of executives that are leaving established companies joining, these are the signs you want in a company that you're investing in pre-IPO. Now, obviously, if there's a secondary or an employee that's selling at too much of a discount, you want to think twice before investing. Yes, there are some people that want to meet cash fast, but in some scenarios, that could be a huge sign that that startup is about to roll over. Another important thing I want you to take into account that investing in such startups is not a liquid investment. And once you usually put that money in, there is a very high likelihood that unless the company either exits or IPOs, you're not seeing that money back. Now, there is a new feature on EquityZen that will allow you to resell those shares if you want to. And in that kind of opportunity that you can actually make an upside and there's no IPO in sight, I am highly confident that there will be many people who will consider to sell the shares at any kind of upside, even though if there's no IPO. Another thing you have to take into account that in such investments, through EquityZen or AngelList, the platform might take a level of carry, meaning that if there is any kind of upside, they're going to take a commission out of that upside. So please take that into account. Last but not least, there's one last way of doing due diligence before doing such investments, and that is talking to employees inside these startups. Try to get as much of a beat as you can. These are not public companies. You can research and ask anything, and as long as people are giving you answers and it's on them, whatever information they're passing on to you, it's a private company, it's not a public company. Get as much information as you can and make the most educated investment you can. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to invest in startups that are in a pre-IPO stage. If you found this video useful, hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, you've never been here before, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications so you can get notified when new videos like this come out. Thanks for watching. See you next time.